Well, Mom, how about making sandwiches for us every day until you can get together $30,000? If you don't, I won't let you see Amelia anymore. Such an unreasonable demand from my eldest son turned my life upside down. Before dawn, I was making sandwiches for his family and delivering them, then heading to the care facility. Worn out from fatigue and lack of sleep, I just couldn't bring myself to cut ties with him, all because of my love for my adorable granddaughter, Amelia. But one day, a tearful Amelia revealed a shocking truth her parents had kept hidden. I can't forgive them anymore. I reached my breaking point and decided to fight back. My name is Emma. I am 72 years old. I lost my husband last year and now live alone in our family home. My husband, who was the same age as me, developed dementia in his later years. I took care of him at home for a while, but the last year was spent under the care of a facility. Because of that, I still have a connection to that facility even after he's gone. I was mentally and physically exhausted from caregiving, and the staff at the facility were truly kind to me. Thanks to them, I believe my husband spent his last year in peace. The facility was always short-staffed and extremely busy. After my husband passed away, I talked to the staff and decided to help out in any small way I could. I've always been good at cooking and baking, so I would make sandwiches and desserts for the staff whenever I went to the facility. Then one day, out of the blue, my eldest son and his family came to visit. It took me by surprise, but I served them tea. Mom, it's been a while. Sorry for barging in like this. We've had some issues and decided to move to this area. James, my eldest son, said while reaching for the treats on the table. He looked worn out for some reason. Natalie, my daughter-in-law, barely spoke since they arrived and kept fiddling with her cell phone. They decided to move all of a sudden. Did something happen? A faint unease lingered in my heart, but I greeted my granddaughter Amelia with a smile. Amelia, you've grown up so much. How have you been? It must have been about 5 years since I last saw my eldest son's family. Ever since my husband was diagnosed with dementia, my days were consumed with caregiving, leaving no time or energy for anything else. I couldn't even keep up with my adorable Amelia. Granny, it's been a while. I've been good. I'm in the 9th grade now. Oh my, how time flies. You'll be taking exams this year then. You better do your best. Upon hearing this, Amelia's expression turned somber. I wondered, is moving during such a critical period in her education a good idea? Just then, a cat's meow echoed from the kitchen. Amelia whispered with joy, "A cat," and hurried towards the sound. Mom, since when did you get a cat? No, that little kitty just pops in from time to time. I always leave the back door slightly ajar for her. Sounds risky. James was staring intently towards the kitchen. Natalie didn't lift her face from her smartphone. In Amelia's absence, I probed my son and his wife about the reasons behind their move. Their response was vague, but in essence, they moved hastily due to financial troubles stemming from a failed business venture. I then inquired about James' job. Job? Well, things have been rough. My health's been on the decline, and the doctor advised some rest. More importantly, Mom, I have a favor to ask. James was hoping for a loan. The failed business and move drained their finances, and they were nearly out of money. He needed about $5,000 for daily expenses. Honestly, I hesitated. Even though he's my eldest, lending such a large sum on the spot felt daunting. Are the two of them even thinking about their future? But no matter how much I probed, all I got was, "Just lend us some money." Despite my reservations, I took out $5,000 from my savings and handed it to James. With a smirk, James quickly pocketed the money. Well, do your best for Amelia's sake. If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. Yeah, thanks. We're heading out now, but we'll be around often. Please keep some food ready for us. With that, James called Amelia, who was petting the cat in the kitchen, and the three of them left. As I cleared the dishes, a sense of unease about what the future held settled in. Hey Mom, it's me. I'll be coming over tonight. Have dinner and a bath ready, okay? Oh, and I've run out of the money you gave me, so I'll need a bit more. Later. Without waiting for my response, James hangs up the phone. I sigh heavily and set my mobile phone on the table. It's been 2 weeks since my eldest son's family imposed themselves on me. Since then, James has been coming over almost daily for meals and money. On weekends, his adorable daughter Amelia joins. At first, I prepared special meals and lent him a few $1,000s each time, but I've reached my limit. James claimed he couldn't work due to medical reasons, but he looked perfectly healthy to me. I couldn't understand why he was blowing through the large sums I lent him every week. That evening, fed up, I sternly confronted James and his wife when they arrived. I told them I didn't want them visiting so frequently and to stop asking for food and money. What? You said you'd help, didn't you? Was that a lie? Predictably, James became aggressive in his words and demeanor. His wife, Natalie, silently played with her phone while eating the meal I'd prepared. There are limits, you know. Making me prepare meals every day, asking for money every week. Enough is enough. I'll go bankrupt at this rate. Fine. I'll give up on the money for now. But instead, bring me sandwiches every day, enough for 3 meals. What? I can't do that. I've told you I volunteer at a facility every weekday morning. Then drop them off before you go. Wake up at 3 a.m. if you have to. Before I could respond, James added, If you don't do anything for us, you won't see Amelia anymore. We'll cut ties with you. Knowing how much I adore my only granddaughter, Amelia, James smirked. Honestly, I'd love to cut ties with this couple, but I worry about sweet Amelia. Let me think. I can't come up with money that easily. Then at least gather around $30,000 for now. And remember the sandwiches daily. Let's go, Natalie. From now on, we don't have to come here every day since Mom will deliver our sandwiches. From that day on, my life dramatically changed. I would wake up before dawn to prepare sandwiches for James's family, deliver them, and then head to the facility. Exhausted and sleep-deprived, my love for Amelia stopped me from cutting ties with my son. This exhausting routine continued for about a month. Then, unexpectedly, Amelia visited alone one weekend. I greeted her with a smile, but she looked somber. To be honest, Dad told me not to visit you anymore. Amelia confessed as she gently stroked our family cat in the kitchen. They make you prepare sandwiches every day while they just laze around at home. I'm so sorry. You don't need to apologize, Amelia. Well, I am a bit worried about those too, but... How's the new school? Are you keeping up with your studies? I tried to shift the topic with a cheerful tone, but Amelia remained silent, tears streaming down her face. Caught off guard, I comforted her by rubbing her back. Eventually, she broke down crying even louder. Not understanding the reason, I patiently waited for Amelia to calm down. When she finally stopped crying, she revealed a shocking truth. Amelia hadn't been attending middle school since they moved here. Not just that, she claimed James forced her to lie about her age and work several part-time jobs. All the money she earned went straight into James' pocket. Furthermore, James took away her cell phone when they moved. One night, he suddenly said, "We're moving." And she was forced onto a truck without even saying goodbye to her friends or teachers. James had forcefully made her promise not to tell me, her grandmother, about all this. I was dumbfounded by the shocking revelations pouring from Amelia's tear-filled eyes. It seemed as if they had moved secretly in the dead of night. What could have possibly happened to my eldest son and his wife? That's how it was. "Amelia, you've been struggling all this time. I'm sorry I didn't notice earlier. But thank you for telling me." "No, I should apologize. I didn't want to upset you. You know, I overheard Dad and Mom talking about you yesterday. They were planning to secretly take some sort of property deed from your place and then pretend you have dementia to place you in a facility. I just couldn't hold it in anymore." Unable to hold back, Amelia began to cry again. I hugged her tightly. No matter what, I couldn't forgive my eldest son anymore. Until now, I endured everything for dear Amelia's sake, but I've reached my breaking point. James is clearly an adult and a parent himself. He must face the consequences of his actions. I made up my mind silently. "Amelia, you don't need to worry. Leave everything to me. Oh, by the way, where are you planning to take your school entrance exams?" I smiled at Amelia, trying to encourage her. Amelia, her eyes red from crying, looked a little comforted. "Well, I want to go to a place called Winchester Culinary School. With everything going on and lack of money, I might not even be able to apply." "Oh, the Winchester Culinary School. I know it. It's a vocational school for cooking and baking, right? The person who founded it was in the same class as your grandfather and me. It's a good school." "Really? That's amazing. I love the dishes you make. I want to make people smile with my cooking, just like you." After that, Amelia shared her dreams with me. She told me that despite her tough circumstances, she never gave up and continued studying diligently. I encouraged Amelia and made her promise to continue her studies. After seeing Amelia off, I quickly took action. First, I decided to investigate my eldest son and his wife, so I hired a private investigator. A week later, after receiving the investigation results and pondering them, I made several contacts. Once everything was in order, I called James. I have something substantial to give him. He must bring Natalie and Amelia with him. Thinking he'd finally get his hands on the big bucks, James eagerly agreed to the conditions, deciding to meet at a coffee shop over the weekend. I was seated by the coffee shop's window, engrossed in my phone, when James and his family approached. I set my phone down on the table and exchanged greetings. "Hey, give me the money already. Do you want to be cut off from us?" Immediately, James reached for the thick brown envelope by my side, filled to the brim. Pulling the envelope closer, I held onto it firmly. "If you really want, we can sever ties. But before that, I have some things to confirm with you. Only after that will I hand this over." I began by pointing out that ever since their move, they hadn't enrolled Amelia in middle school and had been making her work illegally on the side. The couple tried to brush it off, clearly eager for the money, but eventually admitted the truth. "We had no money, so we had no choice. Once we get the money, she'll quit her job and go back to middle school." Suspicious. With doubt, I continued to question why James wasn't working. "Are you truly on medical leave? Which hospital did you go to? Show me some proof, like a receipt or a health insurance card." "I don't have any." "You're not faking it, are you? Lying just because you don't want to work?" As the atmosphere grew tense, James raised his voice. "Don't say things like that. I didn't go to any hospital. but something really traumatic happened and it's been hard. James, can you honestly tell me what happened? If you do, I'll give you this. When I motioned to the envelope in my hand, James begrudgingly began to speak. I get it now. When you said your business failed last time, you were actually betrayed by a business partner, a guy named Alexander. He took off with all the money I worked so hard to earn. He had control over the core know-how and equipment, so I was powerless without him. Oh, that's what happened. I'm the victim here. That's why I couldn't pay the rent and other bills and had to move. Now, just give me that money already. With that, James snatches the envelope from my grasp. However, when he quickly opens it, instead of a wad of cash, it's filled with a bunch of bills. James stares blankly at the bills scattered across the table. Why don't you just tell the truth for once? Feeling let down by my eldest son's persistence in lying, I reveal the facts I've gathered. As the business started to profit, he got deep into the sex industry, accumulating massive debt. To cover it, he deceived his business partner, took all the earnings, and even got involved with payday lenders. Then he moved away secretly in the middle of the night. Do you have any idea how hard it was for Amelia? She was thrown into chaos without understanding the reason. She couldn't even say goodbye to her friends and teachers, and you took away her phone. Do you understand how scared and hurt she felt? Whether James was listening or not, he desperately searches the bills, hoping to find money. Watching his pitiable state, I was utterly exasperated. James, hiding from payday lenders and business owners, had neither been working nor notifying the proper authorities of his whereabouts or processing school transfers for Amelia. His wife, Natalie, wasn't working either, so they had no income. It's clear they were counting on me from the beginning. No, I was planning to work. Once things settled down. What exactly did you do? All you've done is demand money and meals from me and force Amelia to work, right? Natalie is always on her phone, not working at all. Also, I know you've been sneaking into my house while I'm gone. That's breaking and entering, a serious crime, you know. I always leave the back door open for the neighborhood cat. Knowing this, James had been repeatedly breaking into my house whenever I was away. The day Amelia told me about James and Natalie, I remembered I had a pet camera I'd won in a raffle. I fetched it from the storage and set it up. Sure enough, the footage showed James sneaking in from the back door while I was away, rummaging through my cupboards. I've saved the footage on my mobile phone. So, after getting hold of the deeds to my house and land, you planned to make it seem like I'd lost my mind, put me in a facility, and then snatch everything away. You moved here with that intent from the beginning, didn't you? Shut up! You keep making me out to be a criminal. Just because you're my mother, you think you can make baseless accusations. I have a witness right here. Suddenly, an intimidating male voice sounded from behind. James, upon seeing the man, was shocked and jumped. Wah! Alexander! Why are you? Emma contacted me. I heard there was a discussion today, so I came from far away to participate. Good to see you, James. Looking well, I see. Saying so, Alexander took a seat next to James, effectively blocking his exit. It's my first time meeting him, but Alexander is quite an imposing middle-aged man. I'm surprised James dared to cross someone like him. James, return the money now. There are officers waiting outside. I've filed a police report. Pay up or turn yourself in. Decide now. Hearing this from Alexander, James hurriedly looked towards the window. Just as Alexander said, a police car was parked right outside the diner, with an officer standing there, looking our way while on his phone. James looked shocked by the scene, his eyes wide as he instinctively moved back in his seat.
Wait! Alexander, I was wrong. I'm truly sorry. I'll pay you back, I promise. I wasn't running away, I just needed a little more time. Just a bit longer, please, maybe another 2 weeks.
So you plan to sneak out in the middle of the night and move again? You think I'd trust the words of someone who's lied to me once? I'll ask one more time. Will you return the $30,000 you stole from me now, or will you go to the officer outside? Which is it? Finally, he'd be arrested. A tangible, profound fear overtook James, sweat forming on his brow. Trembling, James just stared at the table silently for a moment. Eventually, James' bloodshot eyes slowly turned to face me.
Hey Mom, are you okay with this? If I get arrested, Amelia will be the daughter of a criminal. Your meddling has ruined your sweet granddaughter's life. If you don't want that, give me the money.
Alexander, I'm sorry to interrupt, but could I borrow your cell phone? Mine isn't working right now. I need to dial this number. Cutting off James' desperate plea, I abruptly addressed Alexander. Ignoring the dumbfounded James, I took the phone that Alexander handed over willingly and dialed a number. Switching the call to speaker mode, I placed the phone on the table. Amelia, I'm calling the dean of the Winchester Culinary School. I've already briefed him about your situation. Please, have a chat with him. Amelia was visibly flustered.
What?
Shortly, the call connected, and a flustered Amelia picked up the phone. A deep, calm male voice came through from the other end. Hello, this is William.
Oh. Hi, my name's Amelia. I love my grandmother's cooking. And I want to be able to make dishes that bring joy to people too. I want to join the Winchester Culinary School.
It was a call with the dean of the prestigious Winchester Culinary School. Amelia, filled with nervous excitement, tried her best to convey her feelings. Dean William listened intently, occasionally nodding and giving encouraging murmurs. I see, thank you for sharing, Amelia. It seems you've been through a lot. Your grandmother, Emma, is an old friend of mine. I'm aware of the situation. Amelia, once so excited, suddenly went silent. That's right. She had no hope for exams or the future. Like a deflating balloon, her shoulders slumped in disappointment. But you know, that doesn't matter. You have dreams and you're working hard towards them. You've honored our Winchester Culinary School by choosing it as your first step. We give everyone an equal chance and support all students, no matter their background. Come take the test with integrity. We'll be waiting. The call ended. I thanked him and handed the mobile phone back to Alexander. Yes. Amelia will be fine now. I can turn myself in without any worries. James's face went blank, and he froze. For those who might not know, the Winchester Culinary School is where Amelia wants to study. It's a professional cooking school. Despite the challenges from her clueless parents, nothing will hold her back. Amelia looked at her father. Her cheeks were still flushed from the tension of the call, but her eyes sparkled. James looked deflated, avoiding eye contact, clearly embarrassed. Prompted by Alexander, James exited the diner. The officer put away his phone and started talking to James. It's disheartening to see your child in police custody, but I want James to take full responsibility for his actions. I picked up the mobile phone left on the table. I had previously consulted with the officer and had him on the line during our conversation. With everything recorded, even James can't escape this time. And one more thing. I turned to Natalie. Throughout the confrontation with James, she seemed disinterested, constantly fiddling with her phone.
Natalie, James is with the officer. What will you do?
She only briefly met my gaze. Huh?
I don't care about that man. I'm divorcing him soon anyway.
Amelia looked shocked and turned to her mother.
Wait, what about Amelia? Your marital issues are yours, but you need to consider Amelia. I've made up my mind about what I want. I'm tired of his wasteful spending. I just want to live on my terms now.
Tears quickly filled Amelia's eyes. With a father like James and now her mother, how much more hurt would they inflict on their daughter? I felt more disheartened than angry and sighed deeply. Later, a resigned James confessed all his crimes at the police station and is still being interrogated. He owed $50,000 from the sex industry, took $30,000 from his former business partner Alexander, and borrowed $20,000 from payday lenders. The total amount he siphoned from me was around $20,000. Of course, both Alexander and I intend to claim every penny. As his mother, it's heartbreaking. I hope this serves as a lesson for him to deeply reflect and atone for his sins. Natalie, being James's ex-wife, was also interrogated. During this, it was discovered she had been scammed. This was a romance scam, where you get sweet-talked by someone you meet on social media, and after establishing a romantic relationship, they skillfully swindle large amounts of money. The person Natalie had been communicating with on her mobile phone claimed to be a super famous handsome actor. One day, she received a personal direct message just for her, and was passionately pursued. Natalie fell head over heels. She kept sending money, doing whatever he asked. Of course, this was an imposter pretending to be the actor. This case mirrored numerous others reported to the police. Realizing she'd been deceived, Natalie was utterly devastated. Since she had already divorced James, she had no one to turn to and had lost her means of livelihood. After that, I decided to live with Amelia. I sold my house and land and moved to an apartment near Winchester Culinary School. The house and land, located in a prime urban area, had a huge asset value, fetching me several $1,000,000. I made sure that Amelia would be the beneficiary of these assets, so she'd never face financial hardships. We moved in the middle of the night, as if sneaking away. My parents were deeply distressed with everything escalating to the police, but Amelia never gave up and continued to work hard. I too did everything I could, managing her transfer to middle school and helping with her exams. Thanks to our efforts, Amelia managed to take the entrance exam for Winchester Culinary School and got in. Just as Principal Williams said, Amelia dedicates herself to her studies at Winchester Culinary School, heading straight towards her dream, enjoying her youthful days surrounded by friends. Watching my beloved Amelia grow up by my side, I live with peace in my heart, basking in happiness.
Get out of here, you useless thing.
Even as I laid out all the evidence of John's infidelity on the table, his mother Emily just laughed triumphantly. Since I was the one who initiated the divorce, John should technically be the one getting dumped. Yet Emily, far from being apologetic, was rudely trying to kick me out. John, cornered, didn't say a word, his head bowed. I had no expectations left for Emily, who always saw me as an enemy and criticized everything I did, and for John, who not only tolerated but responded to her. I'm moving out today. Emily seemed to hate me, her son's wife, more than she was upset about her son's infidelity. She never tried to reconcile. I went ahead with my moving plans as scheduled, revealing a final secret at the last moment. It was my ultimate revenge against Emily, who mockingly saw me off, and John, who never answered when it mattered. I am Emma. I turned 34 this year. Just a normal housewife who married a sincere man and had an average happy life. We hadn't had kids yet. children are a gift from heaven. John used to say, so I didn't think much of it. We were a normal couple, but there was one problem that troubled me. It was about Emily. Emily lived close to us. Whenever she showed up around dinner time, I'd be rushed to prepare a meal. Despite eating everything, she constantly complained about the quantity and seasoning of the food.
I've come all this way. Don't you have the decency to serve me something nice?
I'm sorry. Emily would come unannounced almost daily, and always say things like that. Despite my frustration with her remarks, I tried to avoid causing a scene. Moreover, Emily would often say,
"When will you give me a grandchild?"
She seemed to blame me. Perhaps because John is a year younger. Even though John and I agreed that children are a gift, Emily wouldn't listen when I explained.
Are you just saying that because you're hiding some flaw in yourself? That's too much.
No matter what I say, she just keeps nagging me. It's getting nowhere. What used to be a few visits a month became more frequent and longer, becoming nothing but a pain for me. She negates everything I do every day, and I'm just exhausted.
Always like this, and it's not good for me or your mother. Please stop her coming over unannounced.
What's the big deal? We're family. Emma should rely more on our parents.
Rely on them? They do nothing but complain.
It just means they have high expectations of you. No matter how much I try to explain to John. They mean well. That's all he says. Even when I express my displeasure about them coming over without notice. But we're family. He never takes my side. Neither my husband nor Emily tries to see things from my perspective. I realize I'm the only one on my side in this house, and I stop relying on John. Then, one day, as I was returning from shopping, heavier bags in hand than usual, my steps were heavy. Thinking about the possibility of Emily's visit, I bought extra groceries, and the thought of preparing dinner was a burden. Without realizing, I sighed. What's with the gloom? Emily? What?
Is it inconvenient for you that it's me?
I looked up to see Emily, apparently having been waiting in front of the house, glaring at me with her arms crossed. Caught off guard by her even earlier arrival, I involuntarily frowned. She noticed and, narrowing her eyes in displeasure, said,
"Do you hate it so much when I come?"
"Well,
I'm here because my son asked me to. Don't you think it's rude of you to act this way?"
What? What do you mean? I was shocked by her words. When I asked what she meant, she said, "Emma wants Mom to come over. John told her so." I was speechless with John, who, instead of listening to me, had done the exact opposite.
"If you feel that way, you don't have to come over forcibly." Well, what an attitude for me. Acting as if it's harassment when you were the one who wanted it.
I couldn't say outright that I hadn't said such a thing, and even if I claimed John was lying, she wouldn't believe me. So, I just stayed silent, saying nothing. Even when John came home for dinner, Emily kept up her constant complaints about me.
Can you believe it? I go out of my way to visit, and she sighs at me.
Mom, deep down Emma's really happy about it.
That can't be true. If that were the case, why would she try to discourage me from coming?
Even as Emily relayed John's fabricated story, John seemed unconcerned. Instead, he went along with her, making me out to be the bad fellow. I'll talk to Emma later. Mom, just come over whenever you like, as usual.
You're so kind. This wonderful son is wasted on Emma. Showing a little gratitude wouldn't hurt, you know.
She looked satisfied as John saw her off with the words she wanted to hear. She said to me, "John is a good person. Be grateful." After the door closed, I glared at John.
What was all that about earlier?
What do you mean?
Not I'll talk to her later. I've been saying it for a while now. I'm troubled by Emily's sudden visits.
John, feigning ignorance, was met with all the frustration I had been holding back. I couldn't stand him siding with Emily, making me look foolish, not even speaking up for me.
And what's this about me being secretly happy when Emily comes? Who said that?
What's the big deal? Mom's visits are helping you out, right?
Helping me out how? Both of you mocking me while waiting for a meal to be served. What part of that is helpful?
So you're saying you want Mom to never come again? That's rude. She's coming over thinking of you. The conversation with him, who didn't realize the absurdity of his statements and kept making nonsensical remarks, just ran in circles and got nowhere. Far from it, when confronted with the fact that he lied to Emily about me wanting her to visit, he justifies it as thinking it was for the best. Even though we're speaking English, I feel like nothing is getting through to John, and it's making my head spin.
Why would you do something like this? Why would you say that?
I became distrustful of John for deliberately making Emily come to our house. Our communication as a couple was non-existent, and I didn't know what to do, unable to trust him. While I was struggling with this alone, I stumbled upon something unbelievable. I'm going to get a part-time job.
What? Why? If I'm home, I'll have to face Emily all the time. You don't understand, so I have no other choice.
John looked unhappy with my decision, but I had no intention of backing down. Since I have no allies in this house, I decided to make sure I'm away as much as possible. As expected, John quickly gave Emily a spare key in preparation for my absences. It seemed John really wanted Emily to keep an eye on me, even persistently asking about my work hours. If I hadn't known, I would have been startled to see Emily waiting at the entrance, timing it to my return. As soon as I opened the door, there was Emily, arms crossed, looking right at me. I realized instantly that John must have informed her and sighed. Oh. Sighing at the sight of someone, how rude. You were called here by John, right? Hasn't he returned yet? Didn't you tell him you wanted me to come? What's with that attitude? I didn't call for you. If this had been the old me, I would have just swallowed my dissatisfaction. But now that I've realized even John is against me, I've lost all motivation to do so. It was long past the time John should have been home from work, but he still hadn't returned. Even so, Emily seemed displeased with me starting a part-time job. Don't use working as an excuse just because you can't have my grandchild. Please don't assume it's my fault we can't have children. There wasn't anything wrong in the tests. Who knows, maybe the tests just didn't show it. As usual, Emily was saying whatever she wanted in front of me. Even though I started a part-time job and began talking back, which only made Emily angrier, I didn't care what she thought anymore. The part-time job was more than just a way to not be at home. It started when I accidentally saw a woman's name in a notification on John's phone. Seeing that name, I understood everything. John was having Emily monitor me while he went off to cheat. He's probably not coming straight home now, but meeting her instead. I had a reason to be so sure. The name I saw belonged to his ex-girlfriend. I knew it through a mutual friend of ours, and Emily often compared me to her. Emily even bragged. We're still close. So, I clearly remembered her. From this person, there was a message with a heart.
Thanks for Sunday. I want to see you again.
He received a message with a heart emoji. Despite seeing that, I'm not so oblivious as to not notice anything. From the day I saw that, I decided to take revenge on the two of them. I planned to gather evidence using my own money. I could have used John's money, but I didn't want to rely on anything of his. Then, I found out I was pregnant. Although I hesitated, thinking the child was John's, the child was innocent. Confused, but thinking this way, I told John, and he said something hurtful. A child? Really? Yes, really. I've been to the doctor, there's no mistake. Is it really my child? What do you mean? Incredibly, upon hearing about my pregnancy, he doubted whether he was the father. How could he think I had the time for such things while being watched by Emily every day? Shocked and at a loss for words, John continued. You started a part-time job, right? Maybe you found some guy there. How dare he say that? Just because he's cheating, doesn't mean I am too. I wanted to say that but held back and just said, enough. I cut off the conversation and turned my back. I had no more expectations of this man becoming a father. Even Emily, as usual, continued to make me do the housework despite knowing about my pregnancy.
Don't even think about relying on John for housework just because you're pregnant.
He would do anything even if I asked. While preparing meals, I endured her heartless words. John, seeing his wife like this, said nothing and just watched TV. I had endured it all this time because I was alone, but I couldn't take it anymore. This environment wasn't good for a child. Unable to bear it any longer, I secretly called my parents' house at night. I explained everything and asked for help for the sake of the baby in my belly. My brother Michael offered his support. "I'm glad you told me. Thanks for relying on me. Leave the rest to your brother." I had feared they might be angry for not speaking up sooner. But instead of anger, my family offered me words of comfort. I had been so determined to show no weakness to anyone. The tears I had been holding back finally fell. With Michael's help, I prepared for my counterattack. In front of Emily, I demanded a divorce from John.
"I know you've been cheating all along. I want a divorce."
"That's troublesome. I won't divorce."
"What are you saying? Why resist after betraying me?"
I had thought John would easily agree to a divorce if his infidelity was exposed, but surprisingly, he was reluctant. I wondered if he still had feelings for me, but his words were again unreasonable. "Because she can't do housework." His words filled me with anger. At the same time, I felt embarrassed for having even a slight hope. This man, who questioned if the baby was
my child,
and tried to erase his behavior, couldn't possibly have any affection for me. I was at my limit with his selfishness and Emily's silence in the face of all this.
"What's that supposed to mean? I'm not a housekeeper. Don't be so presumptuous."
Hey, what kind of tone is that to take with John? What is the right way to behave towards a cheater like him? She says anything to me, but never a word to John. In front of her, I scattered the evidence of John's affair all over the table. These were photos taken by a detective I hired with the money I saved from my part-time job. While I was working or being insulted by Emily, John was happily meeting his ex-girlfriend. There were even photos of them coming out of a hotel, irrefutable evidence. Emily was initially silent, but as she came to her senses, she lashed out at me.
"It's because you're such a terrible wife that he cheated. I always thought that girl was cuter and better for him than you."
"So, you're in favor of the divorce then?" Furious at me, Emily was actually justifying John's affair. I quickly pulled out the pre-filled divorce papers. John, despite his complaints, was hurried by me and Emily and seemed to have no choice but to sign.
"Are you satisfied now? Get out, you useless thing."
"Yes, I'm moving out now. Right this instant." As I sent a message on my phone, the front door opened, and the movers came in cheerfully. Among them was Michael. "Long time no see, John."
"What? What's going on?"
I knew it would come to this, so I had already asked Michael to help with the move. I had previously explained the situation to Michael, who works in a moving company, and his colleagues, and asked them to pack and move my belongings. As I directed them to my stuff, they efficiently carried out the furniture, leaving John and Emily stunned. I had them move the dresser I bought before marriage and the appliances my parents bought for me without any hesitation. John could only look bewildered as the kitchen became empty. Without saying anything to John, who looked so pitiful, I asked Michael to take the sofa. Even the small sofa Emily used as if it was her own was taken out right in front of her.
"Are you taking everything?" "These were bought with our parents' money for my sister."
Michael, towering over her, looked coldly at Emily, who, unable to confront him, glared at me instead. After all the belongings were moved, and as I was about to get into the car, Emily, seemingly regaining her composure, came out to see me off, laughing.
"We don't need a wife with no manners like you."
"Is that so?"
"Well, I'm done with this mother and son too."
Though I retorted with a smile, my anger at John, who wouldn't say anything, and Emily, who comforted him, didn't subside. So, I decided to drop one last bombshell. Oh, by the way, Emily, do you know why John chose his ex-girlfriend as his affair partner? Obviously, she must be more capable than you. Turns out, she can't have children. That's why she was convenient for him. Meaning, Emily's long-awaited grandchild wouldn't be coming from that relationship. Emily's eyes widened in shock at my words. I couldn't help but laugh at her expression. John, who apparently hadn't expected this to be revealed, looked at me, pale-faced. How did you know that? How? You talked about it with her, didn't you? John, what are you thinking?
It's not like that, Mom. Listen to me.
Emily was evidently upset at the prospect of not having a grandchild, and they began to argue. It seemed John hadn't expected Emily to turn against him. Watching them flounder, I smirked. Annoyed things weren't going his way, John glared at me. Don't trouble her. I'm the one getting divorced.
After all the trouble you've caused me? Of course, I'll be claiming alimony in the divorce settlement, so be prepared.
Stop it. She's never worked anything but part-time.
So what? And shouldn't you be worrying about yourself? You'll be paying too.
John's defense of his ex-girlfriend wavered as soon as money was mentioned. When I hinted at what was to come, they both started calling me greedy. It was laughable how brazen they were after all they had done. I couldn't stay with such people any longer. As I was about to finally get in the car, Emily shouted.
Then at least give us your child. After you give birth, we'll take it.
What kind of logic is that?
It's our grandchild. I can't let a wife with such a terrible character raise it. Who knows what kind of adult they'll become?
No way. If they're raised in this house, they'll end up like an adult who cheats. I laughed it off, and Emily, unable to retort, fell silent. Feeling refreshed at her reaction, I left my house behind with Michael's help. Later, I heard that the ex-girlfriend told John, I can't pay the divorce settlement. It's impossible. Predictably, she dumped John and disappeared.
So, I'm going to change and do better. I want you to come back.
I don't understand what you mean by so. Stop saying silly things. It seemed John, disliking the idea of paying both the divorce settlement and child support, thought I would come back and save him the trouble. He was a man of unfathomable thoughts, but probably hadn't thought things through. As I sighed over the phone, Michael, who was listening, couldn't hold back and took the phone from me. I've heard enough. The reason for the divorce is your foolishness. Reflect on it a bit. Realizing Michael's sternness, John, already frightened by the moving incident, quickly hung up. Thanks to Michael pushing for the payment, the divorce settlement was smoothly settled. After the divorce, I'm now taking my time at my parents' house with my newborn baby. By the way, from Emily as well. I want to see my grandchild. You must understand how lonely I feel as a grandmother. Mom received the phone call crying and pleading for help. Mom, being well aware of the situation, said, After saying you don't need such a wife and kicking her out, how dare you say that? She yelled over the phone like Michael and hung up. Let us know if you need anything. Families are there to help each other. Yes, thank you. I need to be strong too. When I was in that house, I felt alone and burdened. But now, I have a supportive family. Determined to be strong for my child, I'm working hard and moving forward.